It is Friday, and you know what that means. The BBE is live.
Nottingham Ale, boys, Nottingham Ale. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham Ale. Nottingham Ale, boys, Nottingham Ale. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham Ale. Nottingham Ale, boys, Nottingham Ale. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham Ale. Nottingham Ale, boys, Nottingham Ale. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham Ale.
Thanks so much for joining us this Friday. As almost every Friday, we have been doing this for the past year. My name is Thomas Allen. I am one of every director of the BBE that exists. And thanks so much for joining us today.
I'm Leanne Dale Ragusa. I'm another director of the BBE and the resident flute player.
And I am Brandy Berry Benson, yet another one of the only directors of the BBE. And I'm here to introduce our awesome guest that we have today, Bill Baxtresser on the cornetto and trumpet and other instruments, and Paul Von Hoff on the sackbut and trombone. They're two of our BBE favorites. They've been with us the last few years doing Chicago stories, and then of course they do some really awesome stuff with Gadalte Brass Quintet. We heart them, so shout out to that ensemble as well. So thank you guys for joining us here. We're all pretty much in Chicago except Leanne is the odd one out, in Indiana, but that's okay. She practically lives here sometimes.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, so we've explained to them that even though it's, kind of low key, we will be taking their personal information down for everybody at home to enjoy. So with that, maybe we should jump right in and get to the games. And Leanne kicks us off every week. Leanne, tell us about what we're going to be doing.
All right. So first up is the sorted lives of composers. So how it works, you will see 4 multiple choice composers' names on the screen. I will read a paragraph about one of the composers. I may or may not leave out pertinent information. And then there will be a little thinking music, and you get to tell us what you think the answer is, and maybe why you think the answer is, or why it's not that person.
Are we working together, or are we competing?
You could be. You could be team
members. The trumpet player in me is coming out right now. All right, so we'll work together. That's what.
If you want to work together, you can. If you don't, that's also fine.
All right, we'll figure it out.
We generally work together, but since you will announce your answer on television, if you try to stump somebody else by putting in the wrong answer, that actually just means you lost. So it's best to work together, probably.
Sounds good.
Right. All right. So first up, this is also, I will warn you, this is also where I butcher all of the composers' names. So just stay tuned. All right. So first up, this Austrian composer and violinist of Italian birth wrote several trio sonatas for 2 violins, trombone, and bass continuo in the mid-17th century. The style of his music is firmly rooted in the Northern Italian tradition of the 17th century. His vocal works include opera, oratorios, masses, motets, and secular songs, while his instrumental music includes a broad range of popular mid-17th century styles, from the contrapuntal sonatas prevalent at court to large-scale multi-sectional works, including trumpets, cornets, strings, and continuo for important church feasts and court festivities. So, was it Christoph Strauss, Giovanni Battista Fontana, Antonio Bertolli, or Dario Costello? But first, a little thinking music. Sorry.
Let the trumpet subside for about 10 seconds so other people can think about it.
Well, I absolutely was not going to answer.
I
I was going to say for myself, I of course know what it is, but I'm going to let Paul say it first.
think it's Bertolli.
Do you have any reasoning why, or you just know?
Christoph Strauss didn't write any trio sonatas for trombone. Costello wouldn't be
from the right part of Italy.
Classified as mid-century, mid-17th century, I don't think.
And Fontana's a restaurant.
I'm torn between B and C, but I believe it's C.
I would have guessed C.
I also think it's C, just because I'm pretty sure Fontana is also too early.
I've played at least 2 of the trio sonatas with Bertali's.
All right. Thomas, do you want to guess, or you just want to go with the majority here?
I mean, you lost me at this Austrian composer, so I'm just gonna go with C with everybody else.
No, you guys are correct. Good job. Good job. All right. So let's move on to question number 2. This Italian composer and violinist from the early Baroque period worked and published in Venice. As a composer, he was a late member of the Venetian school and had a role in the transformation of the instrumental canzona into the sonata. His music is inventive and technically challenging. Strictly worked polyphonic sections alternate with dramatic recitatives over basso continuo, as well as use of the older canzona technique of using short sections of highly contrasting texture and active rather than lyrical melodic lines. Unusual for the time, he often specified the instruments for each part, calling for cornetti, violins, sackbuts, and dulcians. Was this composer Dario Castello, Giovanni Paolo, oh, you left off his last name, Sima, Giuseppe Scarani, or Tiburcio, Messiano? There should be an O at the end. But first, some thinking music.
There was some copy-paste errors there. Sorry for that.
Any guesses from our guests?
That's
I liked the name of our group, Rook. It's after the castle piece in chess, which we liked because of Dario Castello. So
it's definitely A.
Definitely gonna guess A. We would know that one. He's one of our favorites.
Thomas, Brandy, do you want to wait?
I was gonna say definitely A, and of course that's his picture. So.
Is it really? I didn't know that. That's cool.
It is. It is. Thomas, I'm assuming you're going to go with A.
Well, I was going to be witty and say you lost me at this Austrian composer, meaning I still haven't caught up yet. But of all the names that are on this, the only one that I actually recognized was, in fact, Castello. So I was going to guess him.
All right. Well, good. So far, we are off. You are correct. We are off to a good start. So my final question here is, and I like this picture, this composer.
It's actually Bill.
I know. I was going to say, I'm sure he has a red cape that he performs in.
I have several.
Oh, of course. This composer and organist came from Lucia. He was a pupil of Adrian Villert and undertook his professional training in Venice. He was employed in the services of the Munich court for around 10 years in total, before being appointed as one of the 2 organists of St. Mark's in 1588. He was considered one of the most significant organists of his time and contributed substantially to the instrumental canzona genre. While this composer did not indicate any specific scoring for his canzonas, they were often played on the 16th century pop star of woodwind instruments, which was the cornetto, and accompanied either by organ or an ensemble of 3 gambas and harp. So this is where I'm totally going to butcher these composers' names. Was it Ascano Mayon, Cipriano di Rore, Giovanni Maria Tribeca, or Gioseffo Guami? But first, thinking music. Any guesses?
That's Guami. Giuseppe Guami.
That's very matter of fact. Why?
Well, it's a guess. It's a guess. This
Okay.
one I'm not sure about. But I know if the instrumental canzoni played on cornetti, I do know that he has a few that would fit that description, and I don't think I can say that I've played anything by anything that matching that description by any of the other composers.
Whenever Paul says anything that definitive after 15 years, I'm going to go with that answer.
Okay. Thomas,
I
Brandy.
mean, that sounds good to me.
I'm actually going to go with B for BBE.
Ah, well, I'm sorry, Brandy.
Yeah.
It is D, Guami.
Oh, okay.
If it was any consolation, I was attracted by the de in the middle of the name and was thinking about that till Paul said something.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking of, like the organ side of it. I actually don't know Guami, so there you go.
I also don't because I haven't played any of his music, but you guys are correct. So good job. You guys got 100% on my game.
Why did you try to throw us off by putting like a photograph of Bill?
I didn't think any of those pictures had become public. I'm so happy they're finally getting...
Well, they're
I
not. They're
did
on your
some-
Facebook page, I think.
Yeah, I did a little research to find the perfect picture for this. So
I mean, really, everything about it just works. The green, the red
standing
tape.
in buckets of grapes, it looks like.
Right.
and
That's the only way I practice.
is that the proper posture when one plays the cornetto?
I'm confused why he has his cape tucked over and under his arm. That's totally wrong. But
Okay.
besides that, it's spot on. Yeah, hat, hair, everything.
I mean, it's like you're trying to show your backside, but you're not really. It's a little bit of a tease.
Ooh.
That's
like
true.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's kind of torted. All right, nice. Good job, Bill. All right. All right, so it's my turn. This is my game, and it's called Thomas's Revenge and Cat Doppelgangers, because as you might have noticed from the first game, I'm usually pretty useless in that for various reasons. And so normally during this game, I put up a bunch of obscure vocal music and make you take a wild stab at who it could be. However, I was thinking there's only so many madrigals I can put up there at this point, so let's go some different route. So I'm being very nice, and we'll go with some more brassy type themed stuff for today, so hopefully we'll do well. And then the second half of that Cat Doppelgangers is more of a feeling, and it will be a cat doppelganger that either directly or indirectly or relates to what we were talking about, or maybe I just felt like it. So that's how the game works. So first up, you will see 3 names on the left, and you can tell this is a modern brass piece, probably. We will now listen to a 30 to 40 second excerpt of a piece, and you will get a chance to guess the name of the composer as well as the piece if you know it. You probably will, actually. This one I think is a pretty common one. So maybe we'll make Brandy and Leanne try to answer it first for funsies.
Darn.
And so here is your excerpt. I love that piece. All right. Paul and Bill, do you happen to know it?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So, Brandy, Leanne, you're up first. Who is this?
I also know the answer because remember,
Brandy,
I played
who
in
is
band.
this? Brandy, who is this?
I literally have no idea. The only name that slightly looks familiar is A. And I'm like, I'm going to just go with B for BBE. Just because I literally have no clue. I'm like... So.
Excellent. Bill, Paul, Leanne, is Brandy right?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Wait, what? I don't know it at all. I would have guessed Eric Ewason. So
That's what I'm guessing. Erica Wason.
So you're guessing 2 Erica Wasons. Leanne, do you know who it is?
Yeah, I think it's Erica Wazin.
It is. In fact, look at that great fro right up there. I love it.
Bro. Yeah.
This was my undergrad institution playing their CD, which was really exciting. And that's Doc, who is the director of that group. And for our cat doppelganger, we have a nice lion mane that was very reminiscent of that fro, which I rather enjoy.
Oh my God, Eric would love that.
that's
Yes.
great.
Please Please send it to him.
For sure. I will absolutely send that. He'll love it.
Perfect. All right. And now, so we did pretty well on that one. I only stumped Brandy, but here's the third one. So we've moved back to sort of the classical and or early romantic stage. We have 3 fairly familiar names up there. And here is your approximately 30-second excerpt. See if we know this one. All right, that was enough of that. Any thoughts on who this could be? Well, first of all, does anybody know it for sure? No.
Not for
No.
sure.
All right, perfect. Let's hear the guesses.
I'll go first, and I'm going to guess B.
Mozart, excellent choice.
I will also guess B. Yeah, I suppose it could be A if it's something that was trying to trick us, but I think I'm going to guess B. It sounds like Mozart.
Excellent. Brandy, Leanne.
Oh man, I've gone against you guys before. I kind of want to again, and go with Gluck because that sounds kind of like some stuff. It's been a while since I've played that composer, so to be honest.
And remember, early Schubert also sounds like Mozart sometimes too.
No, exactly.
But
Like
not
that's,
that much like Mozart.
I've tricked people before on that
I
one,
know.
just so you know.
Either going to look great or really off on that.
I mean, I'm gonna just go for it and go Gluck, and
And Leanne, last throw in.
I'm also torn, but I think I'm going to go with B for BBE.
B for BBE. All right. Well, Brandy survived that one. It was, in fact, Luke, and it was the overture to Orfeo. I look at that CD cover. Isn't that the sexiest thing you've ever seen from the 90s? Like,
For the 90s. My gosh.
yeah, actually, I really like this one because I was trying to find another version, and this one was Elliot Gardner, an English Baroque soloist, and that brass really stood out there at the beginning, unlike some of the others that I've heard before. So I was like, let me throw that one in there for good measure. And of course, Gluck looking candidly off to the side, much like a lot of our cats when they're very kind of curious and or confused. So that was my cat doppelganger for that one. All right, great. Well, we sort of survived that one, but there were a few casualties, so I did my job. And now Brandy will definitely slaughter us with her game. Brandy, tell us how we're going to do this one.
all right. So this one is called Two Truths and a Lie, and I wanted to, be equal opportunity here and include both the sackbut and the cornetto in my 3 short stories or sentences, and that's what it is. You're going to get a batch of 3, and the goal is to figure out which one is the lie. So let's get started here. All right. First thing, sackbuts and cornettos make an appearance in Michael Pretorius's second volume, De Organographia of Syntagma Musicum. Second sentence, a common instrumentation for consorts were 2 cornettos and 3 sackbuts, particularly in Venetian churches such as St. Mark's. And then third, just like the modern descent of the sackbut is the trombone, the modern descent of the cornetto is the French horn. So which one is the lie? And now for a little thinking music.
Bill.
I am just still wrinkled with the fact that I've been compared to a French horn. I'm going to say 3 on principle.
I mean, that's what I was going for.
Yeah, it's 3.
Yeah, I think it's 3.
Because I thought the modern descendant of, or the previous descendant of the French horn was the natural horn. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
The cornetto really doesn't have a modern equivalent.
that too, yeah. So
Maybe the saxophone would be the best.
Oh, you take that back.
I know. And I certainly
Hey,
know.
hey, y'all!
Yeah, watch
don't be
it.
knocking that saxophone.
I know what I said.
I know what you said too, and I've got it on tape now. So
There you go. There you go. Well, you guys are all right. That is correct. Number 3 is the lie because, in fact, just like Paul said, there is no modern equivalent that we can really say is the direct descendant of the cornetto. And then we have 2 cornettos to boot right there. That'll, hang on to those because those will become part of the chit chat. All right, so let's go on to the next batch of 3 here. There's a few 17th century names that you guys will recognize for sure. Or late 16th, early 17th. All right, so Dario Costello directed a piffery consisting of sackbuts, cornetos, and chant players at St. Mark's. He also worked alongside his 2 brothers, who were both sackbut players at St. Mark's as well. Giovanni Bassano also directed piffery at St. Mark's before Costello and was a virtuoso cornetist. He was one of the players Gabrielli had in mind for the music that he wrote. And Girolamo da Casa, I'm sure that's exactly how you say that, was yet another virtuoso cornetto player at St. Mark's that performed Gabrielli's works. He described the cornetto as, quote, the most excellent of all the wind instruments because it mimics the human voice better than the instruments do. So I'll let you and Paul duke it out over that one, Bill. But anyway, which one is the lie? And now for a little thinking music.
This one's more subtle.
Oh,
yes,
I find it to be very, very clear.
Okay.
This number 3 is, of course, true. It is
I-
the best instrument.
But-
number 2. Go ahead, Paul.
I mean, unless I'm missing something, it's. Yeah, I think one is correct. I'm not worried about that. Although even one, I didn't know about the Sham players at St. Mark's. That could have been.
But you know the brothers part is true?
I believe so.
Well, I was going to say one because of that specifically. I thought that was the.
I think that's true. Whether Bassano directed the Pifari or was considered Maestro de Capella sort of in a higher position, I don't know. But obviously Bassano was a virtuoso cornetist.
And for
We know-
Gabrielli as well.
We know that. But whether that De La Casa said that on number 3, I don't know either.
I think
So-
he did. That rings true.
I'm actually really intrigued by Paul's observation that in the first one he wasn't sure about the shams, and knowing Brandy's way of doing these things, she will add or detract one thing from a sentence to make it off, or change the date by like 2 years.
Oh, okay. So it could be that subtle.
It could be that subtle. Yes.
Are there many mixed ensembles of sackbuts, cornetos, and shams, Paul? Historically, is that the?
It can happen. Yeah. I once actually asked the Pifaro people about that, and they assured me that that was a thing. When I thought I wouldn't have thought that was a thing that worked, but they've made it work.
I'm gonna stick with 1. I felt strongly about that the whole way through, and I haven't had my mind changed.
I'm with Bill. I'm going to go with number 1 for that sham.
Cool. Leanne, Paul, final answers?
Rolling the dice. Rolling the dice.
It's tricky.
I'll go with 3.
I think I'm gonna go with 1. I think.
Okay. So we've got 3 votes for 1 and a vote for 3. Well, so the lie was actually number 1, but not for the sham reason, but for the 2 brothers.
He's one
brother.
One brother. Yes. Okay.
Nice. Excellent. All right. And now we've survived through that one. One more batch of 3 here. The first sentence, both the sackbut and the cornetto have been 3D printed. Second sentence, there is a grand total of 2 solo pieces written for the sackbut in the 17th century. Third, Heinrich Ignaz Franz Weber made an alternate edition of the Passacaglia for unaccompanied cornetto that concludes his mystery sonatas. So, which one is the lie? And now for a little thinking music.
All right, semantics first. By 3D printed the instruments, do you mean the entire instrument or just a component thereof?
The entire instrument.
Okay, and then second question, solo by solo pieces, do you mean unaccompanied or solo just one trombone with?
So with
one trombone with continuo.
Okay.
Yeah, with continuo. Yeah.
Because there's one sonata by I'm blank on the name right now. Cesare, and then there's divisions on Susano Giur by Rognoni. So I think those would make 2 correct.
I would like to see the technician who could figure out how to 3D print a sackbut.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a thing yet.
Who knows?
If it was just the mouthpiece, sure.
I don't know how you do the slide, but it could be. It could be. I have no idea about 3.
Well, I was going to say, I wouldn't discount the cornetto one, because last week we were like, has anybody, what was it? Was it the Sham or something? Like, no, it was, we were like,
yeah.
Sorry, what did you say, Brandy?
I think you're thinking of the Shalamo from last week.
Yeah, and we found a 3D printed Shalamo.
Oh,
and
the cornetto has definitely been 3D printed. They're great.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have, I know Bill has one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there. They're phenomenal. It's the
Yeah.
trombone that I'm not sure about.
Sorry, did I misspeak? I meant I wouldn't discount the sackbut. That's what I meant. Somebody crazy might have actually tried to do that.
Yeah, you're right. It could be, but I think I'm going to stick with number 1. I'll be shocked if that's happened.
I'll be happy and shocked.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I'm going to Google it as soon as I'm done here.
Do you know if number 3 is true, though?
I have no clue.
It sounds true.
It would be pretty late for something so virtuosic for the cornetto, but hey, it's possible.
That's why it's a mystery.
And I don't know why there'd need to be an alternate edition.
Because cornettos are weird.
Actually, I'm going to go ahead and say 3, because there's probably some nutter somewhere who's tried to do this. Some awesome nutter who's got some epic 3D printing skills that I would love to see. So I'm going to go with 3, actually.
And I mean, there's alternate versions of things like in Messiah and stuff too. Like who sings the 6/8 version of the Alleluia, right? So sorry, not that's the wrong one. That's Mozart. Sorry.
I was gonna say I don't know.
Rejoice greatly. Rejoice greatly. That's the one. Sorry.
There we go. Yeah.
I always preferred the triple, even though that's done way less often. But anyway.
I'm gonna go with number 3.
Cool. All right, so we've got 2 votes for 3. Bill, Leanne, what are your final thoughts?
With 1.
I'm going to go with 3 because I feel like somebody out there has at least attempted a 3D printing of the trombone. If not, I'll tell my husband too, because we have a 3D printer.
Ooh, very cool. Well, so actually number 3 is in fact the lie. Bieber himself did not make an edition of the Passacaglia. I know of a cornetto player who has attempted this, and I would just say, as a sassy violinist, just leave it to the violin for which it is written.
I would say, as a probably sassy cornetist, I'm totally cool with that.
Yes.
There's no reason for us to do that.
I'm glad that you're cool with leaving that part of my repertoire alone. But number 1, though, I did find a crazy nutter that did do this for the sackbut, 2019. So after last week's thing, I was like, you know what? I'm really curious. I'm going to find out if this has been, in fact, 3D printed.
Wow.
And then it's
There it is. Oh, wow.
Okay. Look at that.
And it's on Trombone Chat, just if you want to check that out anytime, Paul.
Paul actually owns that website. It's his favorite place to spend his time.
He hasn't been spending enough time there recently, apparently. Although this is from 2017, so
He was taking a break in 2017.
I mean, you know, sometimes you do have to take a break.
I have to say the slide looked really nice and smooth. Like I was kind of surprised by that. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah.
The instruments are great. They show a picture of somebody holding on monkey bars, just supporting their weight with the cornetto. They're really quite strong. I'm not going to do that now.
Oh, wow. For a 3D printed.
For a 3D printed
cornetto.
instrument, they're
Wow.
definitely more strong than the wood one that I have next to it.
Yes. Yeah, you definitely couldn't do that for sure. I would love to see that on like some kind of ninja challenge. Like, here's your cornetto, and like you're going.
Do the whole American Ninja Warrior, and
There you go.
play
See,
a song.
like, well, that would be tough because your hands are closer together. I mean, I think it would be tough anyways, right? But yes, excellent. Well, now we're at the part of the show where we're at the chit chat. We ask all of your family secrets, your offshore accounts, you know, all that good stuff. Lead us to where all that be, and then also, yeah, let us know what have you guys got coming up. I mean, I know y'all are busy doing multiple things, like most musicians are, and then, you know, I know Gaudete has some cool stuff coming up as well. So, would love to hear from you guys. What should we look forward to in the near-ish future?
Well,
ahead, Paul.
things have been obviously quiet.
Yep.
But Bill and I have been spending quite a bit of time learning some of the technology. Although the fact that my power went out right before this is not evidence of any success on that front. But we learning how to record in Apple Logic and all sorts of fun stuff like that. And actually just got done playing, right before this, we were playing trios with Kate Schuldner, some lasso trios online with the Jacktrip software, which has been a lot of fun, being able to connect remotely even when we can't get together in person. For Gaudete, we've got some, we're, I think, likely, assuming the schools allow it, we're going to be doing the Evanston In-School Music In-School Music Organization's tour of all the Evanston schools. Where we get to go play for every elementary school student in District 65.
Make
which
them
is
all brass players.
going to be a highlight. That's going to be
Yeah.
fantastic. So we're really excited about that. And we just commissioned a piece by the Brooklyn-based composer Alice Jones that we're going to premiere in December at our concert at the Fine Arts Building that we do every year in the middle of the month.
Every year they do the Midwest Band and Orchestra Festival and clinics, and we try to, around Wednesday or Thursday night, just at the time where every musician has run out of money, to host an event at the Fine Arts Building where you can come and for a very cheap ticket price hear us play a concert and have some very inexpensive alcohol, comparatively speaking. Just have a good time. So it's been something we've done for about 10 years now.
And we heard her music. She released this initiative of basically, she wrote a bunch of unaccompanied pieces for whatever instruments you wanted to play them on that could play them. And she basically said, here, they're on the website. Record them, play them, please. And so our tuba player, Scott, found this and showed it to us. And we tried it, and they were gorgeous. Just gorgeous music. Incredibly beautiful. And
Paul recorded one. That's
challenging. Yeah, I recorded one and sent it to her. And then I said, this was really fantastic. Would you be willing to write a quintet piece? And she did. And she turned it around really quickly too. So we got that in the mail just this week, which is always exciting to have.
I was expecting it in a few months, and it came last
right.
week.
But her music's really hard. She wrote a trombone etude book, and it is the hardest etude book that I have ever seen. And I thought I had them all, and I'd seen pretty much everything. But this one of hers is it's both the hardest but also the most rewarding because it's also gorgeous. So what better, like at that point, like this seems like the perfect composer to ask to write a piece. So we're really excited about getting this piece from her.
Almost all the commissions in the quintet, when somebody comes in really excited about a composer or an idea, those commissions that inevitably become the best projects to do. We just get so vested in the passion.
So that's new and cool, but between that, there's still recovering from the last year.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's super. I mean, and I have to say that's high praise coming from you, Paul. Whenever you get excited about somebody like that, for sure. Not that you don't get excited. I'm just saying, like, you're just very honest about your excitement for things. Like about, just like, yes, this is very cool, or yes, this is so. That's really awesome. I am wanting to check out her music now, and
you should.
Yeah.
Probably works a lot better on the violin. She's a flute player originally.
Ah.
So some of it is more idiomatic to instruments that have a little bit more facility at making big leaps and
Gotcha.
stuff like that. But yeah, it's great.
That's super cool. And do y'all have like a full-ish season like coming up this next year, or are you, because I know one of the things is that, I mean, as far as like venues, I know especially for brass players, that's a bigger deal for you guys, I feel like. Is that, what does next year look like?
I would say that it's definitely like if things are filling in, they're filling in for the non-brass type instruments, non-wind instruments. So, it's not as full as we would like it, but that's just out of necessity of how everything's coming back.
Right.
I've been playing a few orchestral gigs with, socially distant, everything and it's felt very comfortable to do. And I think now that everything is hopefully starting to percolate a little bit more, that comfort will be expanded and shared.
Excited to get it back out there, but it's just at this point trying to be patient and have the chops in shape when it's time. So
yeah. But it's coming because I told Leanne and Brandy I was excited because I finally started getting calls to like sing stuff again in 2022, and I'm like, awesome. Yes, finally, so it's coming for we wind folk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's great to hear.
It's nice to get different kind of emails this time of year.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, what else is going on with you guys outside of Gaudate? Do you have any?
Yeah, I was going to ask because, for instance, you both also play non-modern instruments, right? And I know Bill has one there ready to go for us to look at. I'm kind of curious, what's going on in that area? Are you getting any calls? Or are you planning anything with your earlier instruments?
So my as Paul said before, we've been learning how to play over the internet in real time, duets, and I think the biggest leap ahead that my colleagues in the quintet have made is been with their knowledge of recording. So knowing, buying equipment, trying to get it all set up right, and that's been a fun new struggle for everyone. I've been putting a lot of time into learning to record things, learning how to do that. I mean, there's so much to learn.
How to mic the cornetto.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly hard.
And I still feel like I have no idea how to do it. So these, simple things like that, just how do you make yourself sound good on a microphone? How do you feel comfortable recording yourself and others? And then how to put that all together and master it. I've been having so much fun learning Logic and other recording problems along the way to try to help us out.
Have you also, in that same respect, I know when I've had to start doing a lot more recordings this way, you have to let a lot of things go too in recordings because you're constantly worried about being perfect, absolutely perfect, and you can hear every issue that you ever have. Unless you don't, Bill, maybe you are perfect.
No, I'm absolutely not perfect. I am really, 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 really good at splicing out mistakes.
Well, when you're doing it yourself, you can take all the time you want.
Yeah. So I just record it 3 times and use the best tape. But it's just more that I feel like I was sent 5 tracks from a brass quintet, a high school brass quintet that needed to put them all together into one performance, and they weren't even remotely close to each other in timing because it was 5 individual videos, and I took that mess and put it together and made it sound reasonable.
It was impressive what he did.
And it wasn't, I mean, the brass quintet is hard in high school, especially hard to make it sound good. So I felt like I was able to equalize the playing field between them and a bunch of string quartets who were having a lot easier time doing this remotely. And that was a lot of fun to be able to say your work in this semester wasn't wasted. It was really good, and I was able to piece it together into this hilarious video, which was greater than the sum of its parts. But just knowing your way around recording like that, where it can actually help. I mean, I teach all my students over the computer, and I felt that I expected it to be a horrible experience, and they've all started to grow so much quicker over the internet that I don't want to go back in person, because I'm afraid the quality's gonna drop.
One of the other things we've been doing when we've been working with Kate is the classic early music problem of we sat down and found ourselves at different pitch levels. Like after we sorted out all the technology issues to make it work, and then she's in 415 and we are not. And initially I solved that problem by just adding the crooks to my instruments. But recently the other way to do it as a trombone player is to play at high pitch at 465 and transpose as you play, just down the whole step. And I've been forcing myself to learn the bass sack butt in D at 465. It's one of these really odd things. You mentioned, we had the Pretorius thing earlier. Pretorius writes about two different kinds of bass sack butts. He writes about a quart bass, which is down a fourth from the normal trombone in A, and a quint bass, which is down a fifth. And as a modern musician who has to play at both 440 and 465/415, you end up having to do quart bass at 440 and quint bass when you're doing the other two. And I've never gone there. I never learned the D instrument very well, and so I'm forcing myself to do it.
It's really great after years and years of him watching me limp along on the cornetto and try to learn this instrument from scratch as he's rolling his eyes, looking at me like, "What is wrong with you?" I can finally start returning the favor and be like, "Hey, do you need to know what that note is? It's a G."
And like a true trumpet player, you totally just gloat over every opportunity.
There's no other way.
There's no other way. Yeah. So, I know.
I was harboring that grudge for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and I could finally pay back. Yeah.
But it has been great to be able to learn. It's like the only way to learn early music is in a group with other people. The instruments don't reveal their secrets on your own. You just get frustrated. You get frustrated with the fact that we don't understand, because of the years of modern playing, we don't understand the instruments or what they're trying to tell us. But you sit down with the people who have whose instruments are wanting to say the same thing, and collectively we can start to pick apart the secrets. So I can understand not only that I need to play this instrument set up this way, but why I need to play it set up this way. Why is it better? Why does it sound? Why is this the way it's sounding something that is worth having? You don't find that on your own though. So it's one of the things I think all early musicians have really missed, is that ability to explore the skills. And I'm fortunate that I've had Bill connect on the internet, and I feel very fortunate that I'm not at the beginning of my career necessarily with it all, because if you were trying to figure this stuff out for the first time, I just don't know how you could on your own.
Yeah, that would be tough. I like what you said there about the instruments, the sort of reveal themselves, but only when you're in a group, and why. It's a very different approach, from when all of us studied modern counterparts, before getting into early music, and a lot of it was spent alone, probably. I know for myself, a lot of violin training was spent alone, by myself in the practice room. But, there is definitely something to be said about, if you don't spend that time with other people, then there are things about period instruments that can feel or seem inferior in ways that actually they are superior in, if you're not around other people. So I loved what you said. That was so well put. That's awesome. Tell us about this. I'm really curious. I think you guys have mentioned it to me before. but this what is it called that you're using to be able to play over the internet?
So
Jack
Trip.
Yeah, it was a piece of software that was developed at the Computer Music Research Facility at Stanford, in their research center, and it was developed by the professor Chris Chafe there, and he basically made this open source software that they've been refining since that time. And in 2004, the only way to use it would have been at a university with a really high speed internet connections to other universities or special computer centers. Today, our home networks are generally good enough to be able to handle at least the basic implementation of it. It's open source, so it's free. It uses the same technology that people use to play online video games. Wow. So if you're playing Call of Duty or something like that, you would have an open port on your router, which basically means that the computers can access each other faster. And you would use a protocol that says, instead of I send you an email, your computer says, hey, I got the email. It's basically would just send the email and say, hope you got the email. But what that does is now it speeds up the data processing, so the communication. So instead of having to check, it just sends the information. And so it's being sent at the speed of light, or almost the speed of light. So Bill and I are, I think, about 9 miles apart. And our internet doesn't go directly there, but the speed of, instead of the speed of sound, we're talking about the speed of light. That's significantly faster, and fast enough that you've got about a 500-mile range where you can play with people, where it feels a little bit like you're standing in the front of a large church and you're separated by maybe more feet than you'd want to be, but not impossible to play with.
When I spent a week last month in Muskegon, Michigan, and hooked up to Paul in Evanston.
And we played
duets
in real time. And it was great.
And we've had it go from Chicago up to Appleton or Madison, Wisconsin, Kansas City, all at the same time. And it's worked. It's been close. It's
right.
Not like being in the room with someone, but for basically taking a year off, it was a real nice substitute.
I was warned though that it's like anything in music, you have to practice it, and so I found it odd thinking about practicing computer networking, but that was what it ended up being. I had to learn a whole lot. But anyone can do it. You just download the program and read the instructions and have some kind of audio interface on your computer, and you're good to go. It doesn't go ahead.
I was gonna say, how do you feel that this is gonna, once we kind of go back to sort of doing our normal thing, quote unquote, how are you guys gonna keep this as a part of what you do, or are you gonna just kind of abandon it? It seems silly to abandon it. Yeah.
It's a good question, because we play 5 days a week minimum together on this, and so going back to 3 days rehearsing in person with the quintet a week, it won't feel like enough. So I'd imagine that it'll probably hang around for a while, just because even if I just am randomly saying, hey, I want to play something really quick, or can I show this idea, it connects really fast, and the quality you can hear. And like I said before, I've played with Paul for 15 years. I can play him one thing and he can absolutely shred it apart, and that's all I'm looking for, is just that really good feedback, because he knows my playing better than I do. So
when I recorded the piece that Alice Jones's little vocalist thing that I recorded, I was having a lot of trouble. As Thomas, as you said, when you're recording, you get very particular about how accurate it all is. And I kept restarting. I would set everything up and push play, and I was throwing away take after take after take. And so then I called Bill and asked the second to connect. So I hooked him into my computer and played it live for Bill on the internet while I was recording into Logic, and that was the take we used, because having an audience was what I was missing. Changed the way I was thinking. I stopped focusing so much on myself and the mistakes I was making, and thought, as we all want to do, about communicating and sharing and things like that, and where the musical line was going, because I was playing for someone, and so I used it that way, and that was awesome. But it's a great way to test microphones. In some sense, why not? Why not use it? Getting around Chicago, as you all know, is terrible some days. And if you don't have to get in the car and go and park and pay for parking and, spend the gas, it's much nicer.
And we have had rehearsals with all 5 of the quintet at the same time. And that's been pretty great.
Yeah. Oh, and it'd be interesting to see if you did like something with the quintet and then you like piped in a singer from San Francisco and did a performance with them at the same time. That would be kind of cool.
Oh yeah. It's I saw the people who developed the software did this incredible program where they had a chamber ensemble in California and a chamber ensemble in Korea, and they were playing music live on a concert, and they were broadcasting video from the other group in each auditorium. Now that's too far to make it completely synchronous. So you have to play a kind of music that is a little bit more that lends itself to sort of spatial improvisational sorts of things. But they did it, and it was cool. I envision hoping to do something like that someday with groups across the world. I'd love to do that, and knowing that I know how to use the technology now is kind of fun.
Yeah, interesting. Cool. Brandy, Leanne, do we have anything else to grill them on, or should we let them go for lunch?
We can let them go for lunch. I did have one other question, which was, with using the software, because you mentioned like it's not exactly like playing in the room. Is it affecting like how you respond to one another? Like, do you have like here's how we play together when we're here, and here's how we play together when we're in person?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. And it's really funny because what Jack Trip taught me was that for as good or bad or whatever I thought my personal rhythm was, it was nonsense. Nowhere even close.
We had to get a lot better.
Started playing, and you immediately like, oh yeah, you're a little bit late because it's lagging, and then you realize, nope, it's just late because everything I'm playing is slowing down. So the learning curve is getting over, like, you can't respond. You have to be really on your own rhythm. And so if I respond to what I'm hearing, it's already too late. But once you get past that, you realize, like, you really play on the beat, it stays together. And then we got together to play in person for the first time after months of doing the Jack Trip online. And it was almost too much the other way for me. And I had to kind of pull back a little bit and meet in the middle. But I found that playing on the computer has totally changed the way I perceive rhythm and time around me while I'm playing, and I think that it's done nothing but help the in-person playing to be even tighter. But usually when I went and played with the orchestra, and I felt like I was an eighth note ahead of everyone.
That's cool.
I felt that too. I did this really kind of contemporary piece for one of the local groups, and I felt the same. It wasn't in this context, but it was doing the recordings, and I just felt like I was never on with what they were doing. It drove me crazy. But not that I had to be like super precise and just like focus on the rhythm and the tempo and just do my thing, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, cool. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. I mean, it's always a pleasure, to see both of you, and of course, like, work with you guys. There'll be more with you guys in the future with BBE, I'm sure.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely.
We're very excited to do the next project, whatever that is for you all.
Yeah, for sure. But thanks for joining us today. And now I'm like, have a few things to check out, Alice Jones, to figure out this Jack Trip thing.
I know. I'll and this goes for anyone out there who's listening. If that sounds interesting, I'm happy to help anyone personally figure it out. I know how clueless I was when I started. So if anyone out there is interested, just send me an email.
Yeah. The more we teach it, the more we learn. It's a win-win.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to my colleagues and friends for being here. Thanks to everybody at home. We are taking a slight break from the BBE Live, but we'll be back soon with more crazy fun things. And hopefully we'll have Bill and have Paul back with us sometime in the future. So until then, we'll see you later and have a great Memorial Day weekend.
Nottingham Mail, boys, Nottingham Mail. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham Mail. Nottingham Mail, boys, Nottingham Mail. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham Mail.